Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 659 on Tuesday, the 25th of December, 2025. Hello, I'm Alan. And it's another week of no Andrew. I feel I should say he is just fine. I mean, somebody said to me last week that I sounded like I was trying to cover up his death or something, or it was something serious. He's just fine. He's just really busy with stuff somewhere that doesn't have good internet connection, and he doesn't have his gear with him. He will be back next Tuesday. Thank goodness for all of us, because I miss him when I'm doing this, and I feel like it's never as good a show when I'm doing it on my own. It's far better to have someone to sort of mindlessly squabble with and take a short break between talking, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, let's not add too much more of my waffle. One of the things he has done this week is he has provided me with a menu. So this week you're going to hear about a change in the definition of affordability. In new car news, join us asking if the industry has jumped the shark when it comes to EV horsepower. And in points of interest, you'll learn about uniqueness. You know, half the time I have no idea what these mean either. So I just sort of nod, smile and move along. So let's get on with some follow-up. Follow-up this week. First up is the ongoing story about the Dutch government and the Chinese government over the chip manufacturer Nexperia. It was bought by Nexperia. It was a Dutch company. It was bought by the Chinese, and Dutch government decided that they were going to seize control of Nexperia using a sort of Cold War era law that they have to try to stop Nexperia from sort of taking all the kit and shifting it all overseas to China, and then sort of basically closing the factories in the Netherlands. They've dropped that particular order. I'm sure that they were being threatened with some sort of trade war. That is speculation on my part, by the way. But the Dutch government nonetheless accused the Chinese company's owners of serious governance shortcomings that threaten the supply of critical microchips to Europe. Let's see what happens with this. Wingtech is the name of the owner. Let's see what happens with this. I'm sure this won't be the last follow-up on this one, because this supply of chips, of computer chips, that are necessary for vehicles is very important. It's as important as being able to source the steel for the body, or aluminium for the body, and rubber for tires and all of that kind of thing. You need these for modern cars to just work, basically. Second story tonight is from by the way, that first story is from Yahoo Finance. As always, links to every single source story will be in the show notes. The second story tonight is from motortrader.com, and it's about the Nissan Leaf. So the Nissan Leaf price has been announced. I know we normally put this into new car news, but it doesn't really fit there, and it is kind of follow-up because we kind of discussed it before because we didn't know what the prices were. So the second generation Nissan Leaf with the 75 kilowatt hour battery will be priced from £32,249 with the electric car grant here in the UK. Kind of important that the Leaf qualifies for the electric car grant, because it is just about the most British EV that there is out there. So yes, obviously built in Sunderland, batteries built locally as well, engineered, designed, etc. From across the UK, as I say, this side of the cash guy, it's probably about the most British car that you could actually go out and buy, despite the Japanese badge. So I mean, that's good news. Obviously, everything with a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack will then qualify for the electric car grant. So we'll just we'll see what happens there. One day it would be nice to see it in the top registrations list. New news. Start off talking about Gordon Murray Group. So Gordon Murray Group, which includes Gordon Murray Technology and Gordon Murray Automotive, which of course builds the T50, was headed up by CEO Phil Lee. He'd been CEO for 3 years. He'd been at Gordon Murray Group for 5 years, starting off as the finance director. Not a lot of comment on this, really. Very little is sort of known, other than the fact that he resigned his directorship responsibilities from the 5th of November 2025. Story that's linked in Evo says at the end that Gordon Murray Group was contacted for comment but was unable to provide one at the time of writing. So no real knowledge quite what's happening there. Worth mentioning that a 90% stake of Gordon Murray Technology was sold to CYVN Holdings. That's the investment arm between 47 and McLaren in 2023. That cost CYVN £16 million and meant that they had the rights to iStream that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. There's been some other agreements recently, but yeah, don't know quite what's brought this one on. Hopefully it's not anything bad. To Wolfsburg next, where Volkswagen is apparently about to lose its chief strategist. Yes, Volkswagen had a chief strategist, believe it or not. His name was Stefan Weckbach, and supposedly is set to move to a competitor. That's causing some discomfort in Wolfsburg, as you can imagine, particularly in the office of the CEO. Oliver Bloom brought him in as successor to Gernot Dollner, who is now head of Audi. Weckbach was head of corporate strategy, corporate product strategy, and also the executive secretary to Oliver Bloom. Yes, it's going to be tricky. Going to be tricky if the rumours are to be believed and he's off to a competitor. At the very best, then he's going to have quite a long period of gardening leave, I would think. So let's just see. I'm sure this isn't the last we'll hear of this story. Let's see where he crops up next. Staying in Germany, but this time going to Rüsselsheim am Main, and where Hyundai Motor Group has opened a new campus. It's called the Square Campus. It's a €150 million research and development facility at the Hyundai Motor Europe Technical Centre, or HMETC, which just doesn't really roll off the tongue particularly easily. This Square Campus is the largest investment in R&D facilities that the technical centre since the Round Campus was opened in 2003. I imagine that if they put a campus in between the Square Campus and the Round Campus, then it's going to be the Squircle Campus, which sounds significantly more interesting than either of the others. Anyway, back on topic. Square Campus will be used for real-world prototype testing. It will also, also sort of noise, vibration, harshness testing, all of these kind of things. Just lots and lots of vehicle testing. Interesting that Hyundai's doing that, whether it means that they'll be able to have, more vehicles developed in Europe for Europe, or taking global vehicles and making them more suitable for European roads. I just don't know. The technical centre now employs more than 500 people as well. Worth mentioning that. So it is a pretty serious. Setup. To America and to Detroit. It's reported in the Detroit Free Press, which isn't one of our normal sources, that Bollinger Motors has told employees that November the 21st was the last day in business for the company. They've not been able to, basically they have no money. They've not been able to make payroll for the last 2 payroll runs, which is kind of bad. And the parent company, Bollinger Innovations, delisted itself from the NASDAQ Composite stock market index in October. 59 claims of unpaid wages pending with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. And yeah, it's shuttering and it's closing. Supposedly the payroll checks will be made good by the CEO of Bollinger Innovations, David Michery. It's been a little bit drawn out to this point, and it's just been a bit nasty. There's been a bit of falling out between the original founder, Robert Bollinger, who's suing them over $10 million loan that he gave them and hasn't been paid back. They've been in and out of receivership as a result of that kind of stuff. There's suppliers taking legal action to settle, $5 million in unpaid bills, etc., etc., etc. It's not great. So I would imagine that they're not going to be around for very much longer. Possibly someone will buy out the factory and buy up the IP, and we'll see very, very square off-roaders from others. But I don't really see too much of that happening. Again, one we'll keep an eye on. Could well crop up and follow up in a few weeks' time. But at the minute, dead as a doornail, I'm afraid. Company that isn't as dead as a doornail is Wrightbus, Northern Irish coach and bus builder. We talked about them not so long ago, and that they had introduced basically a new service, a new product line called New Power to convert diesel buses into electric buses. Well, the thing is that they've actually expanded what they offer, because they've had a contract to upgrade an existing fleet of 28 Wrightbus Metro Decker buses that were delivered as electric. So this is their first EV to EV repowering contract. And if you think about it, the pace of EV change and progress over the last 3 to 5 years has been really quite impressive. So these were some of the earliest electric buses that they put into service. The technology's moved on a lot, different batteries, different control systems, all of that kind of thing. So what they're going to be doing is taking them from like 3 to 5 year old spec and upgrading them to the current spec. In theory, this should deliver them up to 50% more power, better HVAC and heat pump based heating systems, and new upgraded electric drives will also be installed. So that's pretty cool. I think that's interesting. This is something that is going to happen because, it's always been possible to do this with diesel engines and automatic gearboxes and all of that kind of thing. Bus providers have been swapping them in and out for years. Being able to do the same thing with the EV technology should, in theory, be easier. Far fewer hoses, for example. Although, to be honest, updating the HVAC will probably involve quite a few hoses. But no, latest generations of batteries, axles, drivelines, powertrains, and as I said, HVAC systems going into these buses. Great. Reuse, recycle, renew, and it's all being put into this. Conversion work will all take place at the New Power facility in Oxfordshire. And that means 64 orders to New Power in 2026. That's up from over 50 that have been delivered in 2025, and it's not even 2026 yet. So good news. And it's cool to be able to do this kind of upgrade. That actually, surprisingly, takes us to a Guilt Minute. That's the quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show, whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. Going to say it again, and more of you are doing this, so it's brilliant, and the number of subscriptions is It seems the first 500 are the hardest. Are increasing all the time. YouTube is a great way to do that. The more time you listen to us on YouTube, the more that counts towards our little march towards monetization on there. So YouTube would be a great way to listen to what we do. Obviously, that doesn't work for everyone. Podcast players are fantastic. Yay, thank you. If you listen, thank you. Thanks also to people on Patreon. I see there's been a little bit of revision of amounts from folks. Thank you very much. It is appreciated. So new car news next. I'm going to start off with the MG S6 EV. It is very similar to the MG S5 EV. It is a little bit bigger, but otherwise, a little bit longer. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. It's a Skoda Enyaq rival. And it offers about 329 miles of range, which is pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned, for about £38,000. The idea is that obviously the pricing is going to undercut many of the European brands. There's a couple of drivetrains available in the UK. There's the rear drive long range, which has 241 horsepower, 258 pounds-feet of torque, and that 329 mile range. And there's also a four-wheel drive dual motor with 356 horsepower, 398 pound-feet of torque, and 301 miles of range. Dual motor mostly is rear-wheel drive, only engaging the front motor when there's limited traction or when you need all the powers. 77 kilowatt hour nickel manganese cobalt batteries. It can be recharged up to 144 kilowatt hours, giving 10 to 80% refill time of 38 minutes. You get a touchscreen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. If you get the trophy trim, which is at the top of the line, you get head-up display. Boot capacity 674 litres with the seats up, 1,910 with them down, and there's 124 litres of cargo box in the front. So good place to store your cables and stuff you don't get to very often or need very often. Prices start from £37,995, which is about £1,000 cheaper than the entry-level Enyaq. Long-range trophy is £40,995, and the range-topping dual-motor trophy is £43,995. I spoke with someone actually whilst they were on the S6 EV launch last week. It's just fine. It's great. It's fine. It drives, it stops, it goes around corners. None of it's particularly interesting, but then it's a Chinese EV SUV which is perfectly adequate looking, and it people who are buying them will look at the monthly, look at the lack of tax on stuff, and go, "That's what we want. Okay, I'll have one of them, please." And it's really everything it needs to be. That's it. It's not the most interesting thing in the world. It's a perfectly decent car, and I think MG have been showing that year after year after year by this point. I don't think you need us telling you that anymore. Something slightly different then, another electric SUV, and it's the Jeep Recon. It's going to be launched in the UK, mainland Europe late next year, supposedly, as the unofficial electric equivalent of the Wrangler. Yes, so it's the first electric Jeep which they're showing off as built primarily for off-road use. And I think the first thing we need to talk about are the doors and the roof, because the roof has a very, very big sunroof, which opens right up, and the doors are removable. But it's not convertible. You can't take the whole roof off. It just has a big sunroof. But you can take the windows out. You can take the doors off. Which all this seemed to confuse some people on Tinterweb. But to me, it looks like what Jeep are actually looking for, what designers are referencing with all of this, isn't necessarily the Wrangler. If you want a Wrangler, you buy a Wrangler. That's that. You can shove ducks all over it and do whatever you want with your Wrangler. But this seems to be referencing much more the current fashion, because Wranglers are expensive. Whatever age of Wrangler you want, it's quite expensive unless it's completely and totally trashed. Where the cheaper and the more accessible vehicles are this at the moment is actually the JK, the original, the Mark 1 Cherokee. So, the very square one. And what I saw in the US was people buying them and taking the doors off them during the summer. Then they brought them back on for the winter and whatever else. But in the summer, they take the doors off, open up the roof and do that. And that's kind of what happens with this. It's not a body on frame. It is a monocoque. So you can't treat it the same way. So you take the doors off and you do all that kind of thing. It's all good fun. Jeep claims it's the only fully off-road capable EV, although some people are considering that the G580 EQ from Mercedes-Benz. What are the rest of the specs? Well, the CEO has claimed that there's that the Recon has a 670 horsepower and a 620 pound-foot dual motor powertrain, saying that it is absolutely perfect for off-road. Torque, control, all of that kind of stuff. It's got decent approach and departure angles. Underneath, by the way, stuff like the battery pack, exactly the same as you would find in Peugeot E3008 and E5008 as well. It's just a bit more protected. It's 100 kilowatt hours, by the way, for reference. It's got electric locking differentials, select terrain traction systems, rock modes, all sorts of stuff like that. Aesthetically, it has plenty of shackles on the outside for rope work. It has, it can be had with lots of chunky rubber. It comes with leather, so it's really quite well named. It looks like a Jeep. Okay, it's, as I say, it's got toe points, it's got shackles, it's got all these kind of things. It's got 7 vertical bars in the grille. It's a Jeep, and you're not really going to get it mixed up with any of its Stellantis siblings. It's going to start being sold in the US in the coming months. Full specs for UK and European cars will be revealed in 2026. And the starting price is expected to be around £75,000. So if you have a fetish for that kind of off-roader, then the Recon is probably the place for you to enjoy that. Let's move swiftly on. Jeep, not Jeep at all. We're SUVing again, and we are electric SUVing again, but we're back to the other extreme. The Porsche Cayenne Electric. It's about to go on sale, or it's certainly been unveiled as the most powerful Porsche road model ever, with a mere 1,140 brake horsepower and a price tag of about £130,000. So this is essentially the 4th generation Cayenne. It is the first iteration since the Cayenne was introduced in 2002. Yes, that's over 20 years ago, but goodness, it's much better than those original ones. Much better looking, than those original ones. That might be seen as a challenge if it wasn't for the fact that Porsche are going to continue to manufacture the Mark III Cayenne, albeit with a pretty hefty facelift, supposedly meant to come in 2026. That is because the whole platform for this new Cayenne is EV only. That was the decision that was made. Porsche were trying to hit 80% of its lineup to be electric by 2030. Obviously, there have been changes in the world, both the acceptance and the onboarding of European luxury high-end EVs in China, and also the fact that basically the current US administration thinks that EVs are communist or something. I don't know, and they probably don't know either. But whoever's giving them money has decided that that's very much the case. So that means that the Cayenne well into the 2030s are going to be offered with petrol, hybrid, and electric. Obviously, petrol and hybrid are going to be significant updates of third generation, and the electric will be the electric. Not all of them are going to have the 1130 horsepower. There'll be two different models to start with. The basic Cayenne Electric will be £83,200 ish, before you've added any extras, because Porsche. And the top rung turbo, which we've been talking about, coming at £130,900. You're looking at 0 to 62 in 2.5 seconds, 0 to 124, because why not? Time of 0 to 124 time of 7.4 seconds. Topping out at 162 miles an hour. I don't know, really. I don't know. By the way, you only really get that whenever you press the push to pass button on the steering wheel, and you only ever get all of that power for 10 seconds at a time. Otherwise, you have to put up with a mere 845 horsepower. The entry level still has a dual motor drivetrain, but a mere 402 brake horsepower, which is the same as the Macan 4 electric. That means that a 0 to 62 will take a yawning 4.8 seconds, and the top speed is merely 143 miles an hour. Both models can tow up to 3.5 tons. I'd love to. Somebody's going to try it, aren't they? How short a time will we need to wait before someone decides to tow 3.5 tons off the line with the Cayenne Electric turbo, using all the powers? Let's just see. Lots and lots of stuff there. One of the unique things as well, supposedly the Cayenne Electric is will be one of the first cars in the market to be offered with wireless charging, so that it can top up at up to 11 kilowatts. To do that, it's going to be about £2,000. So you need a water-cooled charge receptor, which weighs 15 kilos and is bolted behind the protective underbody cladding on the car, and another £3,000 for the charging pad itself. All the UK spec Cayenne EVs will be prepared with the necessary wiring and hoses to accept the receptor. I know one person who might be interested in doing that, and I don't even know that he would pay £5,000 for it, but curious to know. Anyway, lots more. There's loads and loads of details in this Autocar story. Again, as ever, link in the show notes. It's been put together by Will Rimmel, who has it's one of the longer stories that we've had on New Car News for a while. Into points of interest. First one, lunchtime read. It's only a relatively short one this week. It's called Spark Moments, and it's part 1. It's by Charlotte Vowden. It's on Haggerty, and it was published just last week. And it's basically Charlotte has been interviewing members of the automotive community and asking them to talk about inspiring the next generation of drivers and what it is, and car folk. And it's quite interesting. There's interviews here with the head of collections and engagement at the British Motor Museum, general manager of Starter Motor, comms director of Hero ERA, who do timed rally trials, all sorts of stuff, and they're talking about things that got them interested, things that they're trying to do to get to get kids interested in cars and automotive stuff and engineering and all of these kind of good things. It's really interesting. There's some lovely stories in there. have a read. It's well worth those 5 minutes of your time, and I'm looking forward to part 2 as well. List of the week this week comes from classicandsportscar.com, and it is 20 affordable coach-built classic cars. And there's some great cars in here, from stuff based on Austin 7s right the way through to stuff from the late 1970s, early 1980s. The one I am going to choose this week is the only one I've ever sat in of the list. And that is, well, it's here as the Lombardy Grand Prix. The version I sat in was an OTAS Grand Prix, or an OTAS 820. In fact, if you go to the Lombardy Grand Prix Wikipedia page, then the one I've sat in is the green one. That's in the sort of first pair of photos there, the green 1971 OTAS 820 with the Vermont license plates. So yeah, it's a tiny little Fiat 850 based sports car, and it's it's been stripped down and completely rebodied and all of these things, and it is tiny. It is very small. When you're sitting in it, you're taking up more than half the length of the car, easily more than half the length of the car. It's super cool. I would love to have driven it, because that wasn't possible because it was winter time and there was snow and salt and all sorts of horrible things outside on the roads, including Vermont drivers. But yeah, it was really cool. Really excellent, sitting something as rare, unusual, and just tiny as that. It was funny because it was sitting in a garage right beside a Buick Roadmaster. So if you really wanted chalk and cheese, the OTAS and the Buick were really that comparison. Loads of other good stuff in here. Stuff based on MGs, Peugeots, Renaults. I could sit here and click through these pretty much non-stop. Ford Cortinas, all of these kind of things, and Beetles and everything. So have a little bit of a look through it. You will discover new stuff. Until I saw it, I didn't really know what the OTAS was either, and even now I'm still not an expert. But yeah, it's a really interesting list, this one. Really, really left field, and a really good chance to learn something new about some really unusual stuff. And finally this week, we go to design news. Design news, purely because they've got what looks like some of the best coverage of the Hot Wheels Legends. So every year we seem to follow the Hot Wheels Legends. And this year the finale took place in... Where did it take place? Of course it took place. It took place in America. Okay, I know it took place in America. For this final ones, there were the winners from 16 different countries, plus 11 US regions, and they were competing to have their car immortalized as a Hot Wheels toy. Judging was by this year's panel of expert designers and enthusiasts. They included Jay Leno, who needs no more introduction, I don't think. Michael Cimino, actor and car culture enthusiast. Therese Laloux, who's a race car driver. Nutran, a content creator. Hurt Life, also a content creator. And Yuka, who only has one name and is also a content creator. Brian Benedict, Hot Wheels key principal designer, and Craig Callum, Hot Wheels senior designer, round off the list of eight judges. There's a really good slideshow here. It's the first bit where it says start the slideshow. If you click on that, it then goes through, and it owns a slightly different page, which is kind of cool. I was really pleased to see the very first one on the slideshow. Jared Pink, YouTuber, engineering mechanic-y type person, who has his own channel, Questionable Garage. If you enjoy kind of sensible people showing you stuff, then I well, I enjoy it. I like it, and I like Jared. Just seems like a generally nice person who takes his time and tries to do stuff properly. You very rarely see sort of click of the fingers type stuff with Jared. So really cool to see him there as one of the regional winners. He being the one from the sort of Georgia and the south. Loads of other good stuff. What else was there from France? There was a fantastic Honda S2000. Yeah, Sébastien Robillard, his S2000. Full body kit, front and rear aero, upgraded wheels. It looks pretty evil and the business. Loads of stuff. Obviously, you forget how international this is. Damien Ode Jamis's 1928 Ford Rat Rod is another fine one from Peru. That's quite something. From the UK, Paul Foster, his son over 14 years, built a 1982 BMW 3 Series. It's built to resemble a Group 2 rally car. Fantastic BMW Motorsport livery on it. Amazing original Group 5 rear spoiler. Just the arches, the wheels, everything. It's not actually BMW powered. It has a 420 horsepower 5-litre Rover V8 with a side exit exhaust and a DTM gearbox. So it must be quite a thing to drive. But super cool. Really cool there. If you keep going through to the end, you will eventually, the very last one, slide 26, is the winner. When I tell you that the winner is from Poland, and it's very small, then you can probably guess what it is. But I'll bet you can't guess what it looks like and what it's pastiche of, copied from. I don't know. I just think it's hilarious. It's absolutely genius. Do please, if you don't follow any other link, follow this last one and have a look at this design news coverage or look this up, and preferably via design news. Really, really cool. I love it. I'm so pleased it exists. I don't care if it turns into Hot Wheels or not. It's super awesome. Yeah. Just great. That gave me a good chuckle when I got to that, because I hadn't read through what it. Well, in fact, in the article, it doesn't actually say what it is. This one, so you do have to go to the end of the slideshow and find out. And yeah, genius. Anyway, I think that's it for this week. Obviously, the only parish note I really have is that his lordship will return next week. I feel like it's that bit at the end of the credits where it says James Bond will return. So yes, Andrew Clues will return at some point. Other than that, all I have to do is find the right. But where's it gone? How many times? Hundreds of times have I clicked on this card in the Trello to remind you that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at motoringpodcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, as I say, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Best way to get in touch with Andrew is to search for Cracked Windscreen on Blue Sky, or indeed under his real name on LinkedIn. Get in touch with me. It's best to use Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY at bsky.social. As I said, we'll be back next week. Until then, I've been Alan Bradley, and safe motoring.